Okay, let's dive into this. Picture the theater of football for a second. Most of the time, it's just absolute chaos, right? You've got 22 players sprinting, colliding, fighting tooth and nail for just inches of space. But then, a foul is called. The whistle blows. The referee sprays that vanishing line. The defensive wall forms. And suddenly, all that chaos just freezes. We're left in this incredible moment of suspended animation. And for 3 glorious seasons at Celtic Park, one man turned this exact dead ball scenario into an absolute mathematical certainty. We're talking about Shunsuke Nakamura. He didn't just take free kicks, he executed them. Today's explainer is going to look at exactly how he used the cold, forensic precision of an engineer to seemingly defeat the very laws of physics. So here is our agenda for today, kind of our clinical syllabus for a biomechanical masterclass. First, we'll look at the architect of the impossible. Second, we'll break down the anatomy of the strike. Third, we'll look at a practical case study with the Manchester United moment. And finally, we'll wrap up with his forensic legacy. Section 1, the architect of the impossible, the anomaly in the theater of football. You know, to really grasp Nakamura's aura, you have to understand the environment he was playing in. He wasn't a player of raw, explosive speed, and he absolutely wasn't known for any bruising physicality. In a league that was so often defined by intense physical brawlers, Nakamura was a total anomaly. He was literally an engineer amongst fighters. He was a player of angles and rotations who calculated the arc of a projectile. The best way to describe his right foot is just cold, forensic precision. Watching him step up to a free kick was this incredible exercise in anticipation. As a fan, you knew where it was going. You knew exactly how it would get there. And yet, the goalkeeper, who, let's be honest, probably also knew it was coming, was inevitably frozen in absolute disbelief. It was honestly as if Nakamura possessed this supernatural ability to just manipulate the air itself. Section 2, Anatomy of the Strike, the biomechanics of pure rotation. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is the stark contrast in technique. Today, we're super used to the modern knuckleball, right? The style famously favored by players like Cristiano Ronaldo. But that technique relies on pure brute force to create unpredictable aerodynamic turbulence. The ball wobbles randomly, it's chaotic. Well, the Nakamura technique is the exact opposite. It's not about unpredictable turbulence at all. Instead, it is built entirely on the rock-solid foundation of pure rotation. And that brings us right to the science behind it, the Magnus effect. This is the specific physics principle Nakamura tapped into through that pure rotation. By manipulating the spin of the ball, the air pressure on one side actually becomes different than the other. And that creates a literal force that pushes the ball sideways or downwards in mid-flight. This is exactly how he was able to bend a ball around a dense wall of defenders and then violently dip it right into the net. He was totally grounding his sporting achievement in this very real, very measurable scientific phenomenon. Let's methodically pace through the 3 sequential steps of this masterclass. Phase 1 is the approach. It always began with his walk-up. It was this deliberate, rhythmic pace. His eyes never left the target, and his body language was calm to the point of complete detachment. He was literally visualizing the curve before his foot even moved. Then, phase 2 is the contact. He'd strike the ball with the inside of his instep using a very specific whipped motion. He was essentially wrapping his foot around the ball to impart massive, and I mean massive, amounts of topspin and side spin. And finally, phase 3, the dip. This was that violent drop caused by the sheer force of all that spin. The combination of those 3 phases created what the source material brilliantly calls a question mark trajectory. I really want you to picture this vividly. A standard free kick travels in a predictable, smooth arc, right? But Nakamura's kicks, no way. They would start out super wide. To the goalkeeper, it would literally look like the ball was heading miles over the bar, or way wide of the post. But then, at the very last possible second, that top spin would catch the air, the ball would plummet, clear the crossbar by mere inches, and just nestle perfectly into the net before the keeper could even pivot their feet. Section 3, the Manchester United moment, a forensic diagnosis. And this brilliantly illustrates everything we've just been talking about. Let's ground all this physics in a practical case study. Picture it. It's a crisp November evening back in 2006. The match is poised on an absolute knife's edge. Nakamura stands over the ball 30 yards out from the goal, and staring him down is Edwin van der Sar, one of the most imposing elite goalkeepers in the world, standing behind a wall of elite Manchester United defenders. But before even striking the ball, Nakamura performed a forensic diagnosis of the defense. He identified a subtle gap in the wall. He calculated the wind resistance swirling around the stadium. He accounted for van der Sar's exact positioning. And then He executed literally the only possible trajectory that could result in a goal. He cleared the wall, aimed for the top left corner, and bypassed Van der Sar's desperate reach with just unbelievable clinical precision. Section 4, the forensic legacy, precision over power. Let's zoom back out for a second to the macro-level impact of what Nakamura actually achieved. Think about the historic Old Firm rivalry, the absolute crucible of Celtic versus Rangers. Those games are defined by aggression, noise, and sheer, raw intensity. Yet amidst all that storm, Nakamura oaks this oasis of tranquility. He didn't get into scuffles, he didn't bark orders at his teammates, he just demanded the ball. And his legacy really boils down to two profound impacts. First, the dead ball as a weaponized asset. By consistently converting these mathematically precise free kicks, he completely terrified opposing teams. Second, he acted as a true cultural bridge. He brought this sophisticated, globally aware approach to Celtic Park. He introduced a level of technical discipline that stood in stark contrast to the traditional, highly physical British-style play of that era. So, the crucial point here is this concept of shrinking the pitch. Because opponents were so utterly terrified of Nakamura's dead ball accuracy, they became absolutely paranoid about conceding fouls anywhere within 30 yards of the penalty box. Think about why this matters. If you can't tackle hard near your own penalty area, what do you have to do? You have to retreat deeper. You have to become far more cautious. Nakamura's right foot completely altered the defensive strategy of an entire league, opening up massive amounts of space for his Celtic teammates to exploit. It was a real game changer. We so often talk about the bruising defenders or the loud, aggressive strikers who dominate football rivalries. But Shunsuke Nakamura was the architect. He was the silent master. He didn't need to command the airwaves or shout down his opponents. He just let his right foot do the talking, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that immense, calculated precision can bend even the most primal, high-intensity world of football totally to your will. Which leaves us with this final, genuinely fascinating question from our source material to ponder today. Looking back at Nakamura's biomechanical mastery, what do you think about today's game? With teams now relying so heavily on data analytics and placing drafters, those players lying completely flat on the ground behind the defensive wall, is it actually harder for a dead ball specialist to thrive? Or conversely, has the evolution of modern ball technology made these highly calculated, high-spin free kicks even deadlier than they were 20 years ago? It's definitely something to think about the next time you see a referee spray that white line and the pitch just freezes. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the impossible.